Hello guys, let's take a look at lesson 10-4 where we're going to continue what we've been focusing in on of comparing fractions. Only this time we're going to take what we've been comparing and transfer that to the number line and to see what fractions look like on the number line and comparing two fractions and what's greater or what is less. So in the first example, we have someone named Talia, and she has two different lengths of red and blue ribbon. So you see the ribbon here, and it says that the ribbon, does Talia have more red ribbon or more blue ribbon? So which one is greater? And in the picture, we have the blue ribbon, which says there's 2/3 of a yard. And the red ribbon that's rolled up is 1/3 of a yard. Now I know it says let's compare that on a number line, but I think what would be good first is let's do what we have been doing first and let's transfer that to the number line. So I like to use the fraction strips, and so let's take a look at that first. So first I'm going to draw a rectangle representing one whole, one full length, okay? Actually 1 yard in this case, because in the thing it says 2/3 of a yard and 1/3 of a yard, so that's a fraction of a yard, a portion of a yard. So let's do 1 whole yard, and then I'm going to put in blue. I'm going to draw another rectangle the same length, and I'm going to break it up into thirds because the denominator for the blue is 3. So I know that the whole yard is broken up into thirds. So let's do that. Thirds. This is 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3. And the numerator says 2. She has 2/3. So she has 1/3 plus 1 more third, right? That makes 2/3. Now let's draw the red one. And so I'm going to go and change my color to red because I can. Red, make a rectangle the same length because it represents 1 whole yard. And the same thing, oh, look at the denominator is a 3. So that one is broken up into thirds also, okay? So we'll do that. 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3. And in this case, the numerator says 1. So she only has 1/3. All right. So now we have to remember what the question is. Does Talia have more red ribbon or more blue ribbon? Okay. So the question is, the red ribbon is 1/3, right? And the blue ribbon is 2/3. So what I say, what would I say? 1/3 is less than, equal to, or greater than 2/3. Well, when I look at the red ribbon, it only goes this far. If it went all the way, that'd be 1 yard, this far. And the blue ribbon went this far. It looks like this went way farther than this one, right? So the red ribbon is actually less than 2/3. So we could say that she has more blue ribbon than red ribbon. And that's all fine and dandy. We did the fraction strips, but this lesson is about comparing on a number line. So let's go ahead and do that. So using the number line now, we will draw a number line. So do my arrows on both sides, and we'll have 0 represent no ribbon. And then all the way here, we'll go to 1, representing 1 yard of ribbon. So the whole thing goes all the way to there. That's 1 yard. Just in my mind, I'm doing that. Now I'm gonna, now we know that the ribbon's been broken up into thirds for the blue ribbon, because we the denominator is 3. So I'm gonna break this up into 3 equal parts the best I can. Okay, and so I have 1 part, 2 parts, 3 parts. Okay, and so my first part would be 1/3. And remember, now we're talking about like traveling on a number line. So the farther you go to the right, the more you've traveled, the more you have, in this case, of the ribbon. So we went 1 part, that's 1/3. We do 1 more part, another third. That'll be 2/3, right? Because each part represents a third. And then we do 1 more part, or 1 more third, and that will represent 3/3. But we usually don't say 3/3, we just say 1 whole, right? 1 whole yard. So for the blue, and I'm going to change my highlighter to blue, it says there's 2/3. So I went from 0, nothing. I went 1/3 plus another third. So the blue goes that far. And then for the red, says there's 1/3. So I'm going to change mine. I don't have red, so I'm going to go with pink. How's that? Just 1/3. And so now we can visually see on the number line. Let's do that. So we have the red, which is 1/3, and then we have the blue, which is 2/3. And then we can see that the red only went this far, and the blue went this far, and so the red is definitely less than the blue. So the 1/3 is less than 2/3. Another way to look at this too is notice what you see here. The denominator is the same, 3 and 3. That means the whole is the same. So we have the red could represent 1 yard. This represents the same yard. And the numerator, there's only 1 as compared to 2. And I know that 1 is less than 2. And as long as the pieces are the same size, if I have 1 piece compared to 2 pieces, I know that's going to be less. So that's another way of looking at it, yo, people. Okay? And same thing in the book. As you can see, we did the number line, and that the 2/3 is farther to the right than 1/3. Okay? In the first example, we were comparing two fractions, but if you notice, the fractions had common denominators, the same denominator. That means the pieces, the individual pieces, were the same size. And we had one that had 2 pieces, and the other one that had 1 piece. But that doesn't always happen, does it? Pieces aren't always cut up the same way. And so this next example that we're going to do is we're going to compare now pieces that are different sizes. That means the denominator is different. And for instance, for this one in the book, we have Ben. And it shows that he has 1/2 of a yard, a half yard of string. And John has 1/3 yard of string, who has more. All right. So as you can see, we have 2 in the denominator for Ben, and we have 3 in the denominator for John. So we have different size pieces, and let's have that represented on the number line. So the way to do that is you want to draw a number line for Ben. So I'm going to draw a number line here, and I'm going to have 0 and 1. Okay, so all the way will represent 1 yard. 1 yard, the entire way, the distance of string. And that'll be for Ben. And then I'm going to draw another number line. Make sure it's the same length, guys. You want to make sure that the yard is equal to the same yard. A yard is a yard, and you can't make 1 yard longer than the other. So if you notice, I've done a pretty good job of making sure we got my zeros lined up and then my 1 lined up. Okay? Now for Ben, his has been divided up into 2 equal parts. The denominator is 2. So I'm going to divide this up into 2 equal parts. That means I've got to put a line right down the middle. Oops, how about if I change this to my pen? There we go. Right down the middle. And so I have 2 equal parts. So if I go 1 part, that's 1 out of 2, right? Or 1/2. And then if I go 2 equal parts, that would be 2 halves, or 1 whole yard. And he has 1/2. So I'm going to highlight all the way here. He's got 1 of those halves. John has 1/3. His denominator is a 3. So I need to divide this up into 3 equal parts. So let's do that. Do my best here. Pretty close, I guess, right? I maybe make this one a little bit longer than this one, but you know, for most part, we've got 1 part, that's 1/3. You got another part, that's another 1/3, and another part, that's another 1/3. It's hard to see that, huh? So let's go 1 part, that's 1/3. Now if we go 1, 2 of these thirds, now we got 2/3. And then we go 1, 2, 3 of those, we've got 3/3, or 1 whole yard. And John has 1/3. So there. Okay. Now you can see, just visually, look how much further to the right Ben went compared to John. Yeah, I can even show it with a little dotted line. If I go straight up, John only went this far as compared to Ben, who went a little bit further with 1/2. So we could say that Ben has more string than John. And we can do 1/2 is more than 1/3. And then when you compare here, now look at each one has only 1 piece, right? The numerator says 1, 1/2 to 1/3. The denominator are different, but remember what you know about the denominators? The smaller the denominator, the bigger the piece, right? So if it's been divided up into 2 as compared to divided up into 3 parts, 2 will give you a bigger piece than 3, and we've just demonstrated that right here. So if the numerators are equal, if they have 1, 1, then we can just look at the denominator and say, wow, look at that. I've got a smaller denominator here, so 1/2 will be larger than 1/3. Now let's go on to guided practice.